cette grande sphere et tout ce que cette technologie a à vous offrir.
We invite you to take a closer look at the vehicle. Feel free to take any photos. We just ask that you remain off the platform. The panel will begin momentarily. If you'll please take your seats. Today's panel will be live streamed on the Audi Canada YouTube page as well as the Globe and Mail website. Following the panel, we ask that you remain seated as our discussion will continue with a Q&A session followed by interviews in the lobby. We ask that you silence your cell phones, and if you do need to use the washroom during the panel, there is one located at the back of the room. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Autorino, Head of Marketing for Audi Canada, and I'd like to welcome you to the first House of Progress in North America. The House of Progress has been in Sao Paulo, in Tokyo, and in Milan, and now in Montreal, a progressive, innovative city that advocates for the EV lifestyle. We were inspired by the other House of Progresses around the globe to be able to use the one here in Montreal as a platform to bring together various experts and thought leaders from industries to speak about the future of premium mobility. And so with that, I would like to describe this panel. It's called the Digitalization Panel, a conversation about technology and human centricity. Now I'd like to introduce you to Ramii Rammal from La Presse, who will be your host and moderator for today's panel. Ramii?
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you. The future is shaped with bold ideas, which is demonstrated easily by the advancement of technology. As we continue to drive forward digitalization, it's important to remember what's key, keeping people at the center of every concept, every design, and every product. This panel will explore the importance of human centricity with technology and the continuous progress that has and is to come. We're lucky today to have three thought leaders joining us for discussion. First is VP of Marketing, Data and Consumer Highlights at La Presse, Geoffrey Bernard. Next is the founder and president of Electric Autonomy Canada, Nino Di Cara. And finally, AI facilitator and coach, Myriam Côté. please take a seat. I'd like to start by asking each one of you to tell the audience a bit about your work, what you do, in clear terms. Imagine I'm a 12-year-old guy.
All right, I'll start. So my name is Geoffrey. I work for La Presse. I've been there for 7 years. Initially, my work was to structure the data practice there. And then I inherited consumer research and marketing. My job really these days, and the reason why I'm here, is we're focusing on trying to better understand, coming out of a pandemic, all the major events that happened in the last 24 or 36 months, what changed in people's lives, how their generally habits got modified. Obviously, it modified their relationship to news consumption, what they expect from media outlets, as well as from any brands. So that's that.
Thank you. Nino.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, Nino Di Cara, I'm the founder of Electric Autonomy Canada. Electric Autonomy is a news and media company that reports on the transition to electric vehicles and new mobility services like autonomy. And our mission is to help provide quality information to help people make good decisions on the adoption of this technology. And I would just like to say, it's a real honor to be here. As a little kid, I grew up in England and used to see the adverts for Audi, for the 100, which was an aerodynamic car, and also the Quattro. And at the end of those adverts, those commercials, they used to say Vorsprung durch Technik, which means progress through technology. And it's just very cool to be here today at House of Progress, where Audi is still living true to those values and those positioning. So it's a great pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Myriam Côté. I'm very honored to be part of this panel with my co-panelists. I have a background in academia and startups and small tech companies, so I speak different languages, the technical and the research language. I've been building MILA, the Montreal Institute for Learning Algorithms, with the professor Geoffrey Bernard for 10 years. So I did tech transfer, I did many things, but at the end I was the director of AI for Humanity, so it gives you some background that I'm interested by these kind of topics. On the operational way of applying AI, but also the impact on society. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm helping companies with different challenges they may encounter when they want to apply AI in their products.
Thanks so much. So we're going to start pretty smooth. I'm a driver. I drive. My car is a smart, connected object, so I do have sort of an interface relationship with my car. We interact together. As we're steering towards autonomy and more sophisticated cars, cars will begin to communicate with one another as well as with devices that we have on the road. How would you describe the relationship between humans and technology? I'm staying here. I'm waiting. I'll just.
I'll happily kick in. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so our relationship, I think humans have a condition to lean into technology, and there's that great scene in 2001 Space Odyssey where the chimp picks up the rock and uses it to beat his or her competitors. And obviously throughout our generations, developing farming equipment, radios and smart technology, these are things that we kind of really lean into. And I think on a kind of macro level, it's interesting how really technology is more about digitization these days. That's really where the frontier of technological advancements is happening. And we're all cyborgs now. You know, I've interacted with many people in this room through social media and through email. And when you have a communication like that, you believe you're talking to that person because rightly you are. So I think the relationship is that we've embraced it and we are now part of it. It's now part of us. But it can sometimes be challenging for us to actually get on the page to adopt it. So sometimes the technology is ahead of us, and you've got things like Google Glass, which a
good example.
Yeah, great piece of technology, but nobody liked the idea of somebody videoing them while they're talking to them. and then we've got technology like video conferencing, and we've now got Zoom, which we're all really comfortable with, and people can video us all the time while we're talking. We may not know about it. But that video technology has been around for well over a decade, but it took the pandemic for us to get over the inertia and actually have us employ it. So in terms of mobility, I think what's really exciting about technology now is that it can really help. The traditional early adopters are the young and the rich, but when you look at things like autonomy, I would argue that the early adopters we should be making those solutions for are people like seniors and people with disabilities. So when my dad lost his license at 89, he couldn't take my mum to healthcare appointments. And they didn't like getting taxis, they didn't want to go in a car with strangers. And you can see how autonomy is going to really help that segment of the population. It's not a gimmick, and as it's sometimes portrayed.
Yeah.
This is going to be really important for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be quick, Geoffrey. I just want to say that technology is neither good or bad. It's what we're doing with it. And it has been like this for a long time in our, since we were on Earth, I would say. So it depends what we do with it. And when it's powerful, we need to be very wise. So.
Yeah. And just to bounce back on what you're saying, when we're talking about autonomy, we're not at full autonomy for now for the mass consumers, but we sort of have half autonomy. You were talking about cruise control. Adaptive cruise control is a form of self-driving car, and Audi was one of the first ones to put it in a Q7. That was like 12, 13 years ago, and it was a start. I have something for Geoffrey, specifically for you. How has innovation in technology impacted the way humans communicate? And how has it impacted their needs?
Vast question. I would say it has never been as easy for humans to communicate. All of us receive, I think the latest research is between 50 and 60 notifications a day. We all have like a smartphone that's basically an extension of our arm. Now the smartphone is connected to your car. I should have disclosed this, but I do own an Audi. Love the CarPlay wireless feature, amazing, but that makes me even more connected. It's truly great. Now, what people seem to be needing more and more, if you look at early 2000s, mid-2000s, your phone was trying to keep you more and more connected with people, like more features to be reached every time, everywhere. If you look at the past 5 years, more people are looking for like filtering things, do not disturb functions, trying to be on your own time, trying to filter what's essential. They expect personalization, but at the same time, they don't want to be fed information that they feel they're being controlled. So the relationship is really love-hate sort of element. It's very nascent for everyone. I mean, if you look at, I want to echo Nino's comment on the first question. Adoption is a big element, but it's very nascent. The velocity with which technology communication is being implemented in people's lives at a pace that pretty much nobody can control, it's hard to adopt it. I mean, we've all had new features being pushed and be like, oh, didn't know that could do this. I didn't know my car could do some things when I turn it on at one point. So this relationship is really love-hate. We've never been as connected to others as like ever in human history, really. And I feel we need to adapt and get to a point where we're going to be able to master our own bubble and be more in control than be ever more solicited and present in everybody else's life.
I feel like it's really interesting that you're talking about a love-hate relationship, because I feel that this is the relationship that we have with the car. The car first started as a tool, mainly a farming tool, and then it became like a tool of freedom that mass consumers could buy, and then it became a tool in which you could work in a city and then live in the suburbs. That's why GM bought the train tracks and had them shut down. And now we're rethinking the car as more of something that's, we have to take care of, we have to park, it's polluting to produce, it makes noise in the city, so we have to like rethink our relationship with the car. But I mean, we'll always love driving, we'll always love looking at cars, we'll always love that feeling of liberty and independence and pride of ownership that comes with, owning a car that, talking about personalization, like the car is an extension of you. So I'm wondering if you have anything to say about the way that technology has impacted the way humans communicate and their needs. We've heard from Geoffrey.
The fact that the technology is able to help us as a company to give a better service to the customers, to be able to customize things, to be caring with the relationship we have with our customers, because we will know more and more information about them. And we need to do that in an ethical way, so we need to make sure that the customers give their consent to this. It has to be explained, very transparent what we do with that, but I guess overall it's going to be beneficial for the relationship and for the service the companies will provide.
And I think on the point of communication, it's interesting to think about the role of the vehicle in communication. And you mentioned you've got a connected vehicle. And I think we're at the very early stages of really unlocking what the potential and power of that means. And so when the vehicle's communicating with infrastructure around us, with the internet for weather networks and with pedestrians, going back to disability, if you've got a vision impaired pedestrian, who's got a smartwatch, who can be alerted when there's a vehicle perhaps coming too close, and so on. Or for vehicles to communicate with each other, so that when you're going around a blind corner, there may be a broken down vehicle, but that vehicle could be communicating already to the oncoming traffic that there's an obstacle in the way. So it's really going to unlock so much safety aspects and potential for us.
Do you see any potential challenges ahead in the relation to the intersection of humans and technology? Because, we're talking about cars communicating with one another, cars communicating with devices that will be placed on the road. I mean, when the car does everything for you, the car is sort of making a decision. The car is sort of acting, but I mean, even with autonomous driving functions, there is sort of a disclaimer that says you have to keep your hand on the steering wheel. Does that make you liable? How are we going to face these challenges and make sure that, everyone is safe and that we...
Yeah, it's a great question.
Don't be scared.
Who is responsible when an accident occurs, eh? Is it the car, the dummy car, or is it the company who is building these cars and building the software? So it has to be answered. But I think the first step would be that AI or connectivity or whatever smartness we bring to the cars, first of all, it should assist us in a way, like Nino said, to alarm us when there's something on the road that is coming. It's going to improve the security on the roads. Maybe they will tell us when we're too drunk to drive the car. Also, this perspective of having smartness in the car to assist us, to prevent us for having bad things, this is a positive way to look at it. And first, to build the trust between the technology and the customers. And then we'll see, because who would have said that you would take a plane that a lot of the time it's on autopilot? Who would have said that many years ago? So I'm guessing it's going to happen in the future for the autonomous vehicle as well.
I think one of the challenges is going to be the transition from autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicles to non-autonomous vehicles, and having people transition from one way of driving to a new way of driving. If I'm thinking about the new features that I have in my car, it's very destabilizing initially to have your car adaptive cruise control. The car stops and you're like, I didn't do anything. It's just, it
didn't do anything, but you did a good job. I mean,
that's it. And so it's just, there's a way of like adapting this, and I think what will be one of the main challenges for brands, it's the technology, the AI, the models will evolve very quickly, but it's also going to be to try and bring humans to understand, and it's going to be a conversion between what AI and advanced technologies can do, as well as what user experience will be, and how do you bring that user experience so that the user doesn't feel completely destabilized in an environment where they used to be doing one thing, and then how do you get them to slowly understand and adopt those new technologies? I feel that's going to be one of the key challenges.
And I think there's such a great point about where we are with autonomy or advanced driver assistance systems right now, is that they talk about 5 levels of autonomy, with level 5 being basically you can go to sleep in the car and it'll drive for you. But right now, with the technologies really around level 2, level 3 stage, which means, as Geoffrey was saying, that right now we've got this supervising role in the vehicle. So the technology does the braking and the steering for us. And it takes the pressure off of us to do that. But we have to be kind of even more attentive as a supervisor to leap in at the last minute, should something happen. So while we're waiting for the technology to get to level 5, there's kind of less demand on the driver, but also there's kind of more. And so I think where it gets challenging is and as Myriam was saying, the issue of trust. And the way that a lot of the media picks up some of the accidents that happen around autonomy right now is that it's the cause of the technology, and look at this terrible thing. But none of the systems on the road right now are, well, very few are approved to be completely driverless. And yet that seems to be missed by the media. Any faults of those systems is really with the driver for not actually paying attention according to the...
That's what I was going to ask you. Do we trust other drivers more than we trust a perfectly programmed machine? And you're talking about stage 3 of full autonomy. Will we eventually flip from having a vehicle supervise us in our little, bad habits, to us supervising a vehicle which is, functioning at 99%, and we're just that little 1% that pushes a button and then goes back to sleep?
I think it's tough to get. It's going to be tough for us to get to that point of complete full autonomy. Certainly in urban areas, I think highways it's going to be a lot easier. So yeah, I think we need to make our peace with it. And the issue is around trust. I mean, the point about do we trust a computer or a driver? On average, there's 4 people are killed every day on Canada's roads, and another 400 are injured. And 95% of those accidents are caused by human error. And we're kind of comfortable with that as a society. We expect it as it's just the cost of driving a car. So if we can be as comfortable as Myriam was saying with a computer driving a car like it flies aeroplanes, there'll still be accidents, but will we be happy as a society that they will still cause accidents and fatalities, but it will be less? And is that a deal we're willing to make as a society?
That's amazing. That's really interesting. This one is for you. How do advancements in technology and innovation impact mobility? I think we've pretty much covered some aspects of that, but I think that you can still, if you have more to add.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I mean, I'll just paint the picture a little bit more of what autonomy means. It is portrayed as a gadget and as a novel piece of technology, but it's going to transform our society very much. When cars can drive themselves and when they're fueled by electricity, it's much easier to refuel them. And this future that's spoken about of having robo-taxis, so there'll be less car ownership, and there'll be more about us calling robo-taxis like we call Ubers. And that's going to change our built infrastructure in a huge way. We won't need parking lots outside shopping malls in the way that we have them now. We won't need to park along our streets. We have lovely neighborhoods, but we have cars all along them. And I mean, I love cars, but wouldn't it be interesting if our streets had bike paths in the places where we currently park our cars instead? So there's so many. So this is going to hit our urban planners in a really significant way, and we need to plan for that right now. So there's kind of many lenses that this impacts beyond us as drivers.
And this one is for Myriam and Nino. How, with increased connectivity and autonomous driving, will legislation need to change to ensure that people are protected and that there is accountability and data ownership?
Well, there's already some efforts in doing so, having regulations. The problem is that the regulation often is too...
Are a little later than technology.
later
Like
than-
technology goes really fast,
Yes,
it
that's
disturbs
it.
legislation, it disturbs everything in place, and then they have to adapt. Yeah, you're right.
So the technology is always in advance, but there's efforts right now with a regulation. I would talk about the GDPR. I would talk about a recent bill act for AI that is under discussion in the US. We have some here too. And also I can talk about what is something which is very important in Montreal because it has been done here. We have the Montreal Declaration talking about principles that should be the inspiration for the development of AI and to sustain or to back up the regulation that has to be developed. So many other countries have the equivalent, and UNESCO has one that is followed by 200 countries. Anyhow, we need to make sure there's consent, that there's the privacy of the data is secured. All the ownership of the responsibility is very important in that case. So that's about it. I will leave the aspect of it to my colleagues here.
It's really important that we talk about data, because I mean, we think about a company like Tesla. Tesla is a car maker, but it's also a data company, because the first owner of a Tesla, the second that he started driving throughout America, Tesla was collecting and analyzing and using that data to work on their maps, to work on the cars, to work on autonomous driving. So it is a data challenge. It is a...
And data ownership in general has been a very wide topic since the advancement of digitalization. Historically, it was very hard to track one person doing something, where it was very obvious and creepy. Now it's super in the background. It happens. Everything is happening. You can measure everything. So if we go back to the question of personalization or technology being able to support people and through automation and other advances, I believe it's going to be important that users understand how much data is being grabbed, what is being done, and for that to be encapsulated in a framework where they know the data is secure, they know they can ask for that data to be erased if need be. So it's going to become like a trusting relationship between the brand and the user to make sure that their data still belongs to them, but is being lended to the company to provide a service. It's not an exchange of data. It's not an exchange of ownership. It is I will lend you my data so that you can render a service. I'd love for it to not be used outside and externally, and for you to profit from it somewhere else. But it feels like the legislation, we mentioned GDPR, Project 6424, depending the law, different frameworks that are happening around the world and here in Canada is aiming at this. I think it's been a very wide ask from the general public, and we're getting close to a better place, I would say.
And the point about the ownership between the car maker and the driver and owner, I think it's super key. But wouldn't it be great if that data could be put into a public trust for the good of the society or the city in which that data is captured, so that not just the automaker gets the benefit of that technology, but maybe the city planners can, maybe people who are trying to develop new mobility technologies can actually start using that data to use it. And so if we think, well, the owner's going to have ownership of that data, could we create a framework for that person to actually donate it to the public trust and create security around it? And just on a point Myriam was making about how really the tech companies are really moving so fast, and regulators are obviously always playing catch up. Is there anything that we can do to help make the work of our government and our regulators sexy and exciting, so that so that these technologists actually decide, actually, I'm going to start working on a framework to make...
The answer is no.
One of the challenges.
Yeah, and I would add a comment on this. If we could have standardized platforms so that everything is secure, like a standard, something that is bulletproof, and everybody rely on this to build other things around it. It could secure the relationship between the society and companies who want to make business, you know. Otherwise, if the balance is not there, there's going to be a pushback from the society, and it won't be good for business.
I mean, it's such a good point on standards. As we're rolling out now EV charging infrastructure, you know, something a little bit closer to home, there's currently no standards for the operation. Some you need an app, some you need a credit card, some are free. And you don't, when you arrive, you don't know which one you're going to need. But we really need a standardized approach, so when a driver arrives at a charging station, it will be seamless. They won't have to think about how they activate that charging session. So, yeah, the standards, I think, are crucial.
All right, now this is the fun part where we're just like imagining things. Sometimes I just, you know, close my, I love cars, first of all. I drive every day. I've loved cars since I was like 3. So I sort of, you know, try to follow where the car industry is going. And for some reason, the vision I have when I close my eyes and look forward like 20 years ago, I feel like we're going to be living in smaller neighborhoods that are more focused on proximity, on walking, on active transportation. And I feel that there's a chance that in the near future, I will have a membership, sort of like I have a Netflix membership, a electricity membership. I'll have a membership. It's going to be a membership with Audi. I will leave my house, walk 3 minutes. There's going to be a VW Group parking lot. There's going to be an RS5, a Lambo Urus, there's going to be a Q8, there's going to be all sorts of vehicles, and with my phone I'll just point towards the vehicle I want to unlock, and that's how I'll use a car. That's the relationship that I'm going to have with my car maker and with my car. So this is what I see. What do you guys see?
Well, we are definitely on our way to this, and Back to the Future had flying cars. Everything else materialized in that movie except this. So hopefully we're going to get to a point where sharing a vehicle and with the material it takes to create the vehicle, the very low capabilities to recycle the materials and so on, car sharing hopefully will become a norm. Now, it's very easy to imagine in a sphere where you are in a central city. Now, if you think about the regions, provinces, especially in Quebec, like density per capita is per kilometer square is probably the lowest in
the world
of the developed countries. Yeah. So it's just there's something to be worked on for the more rural areas, but for the more city sort of metropolis, I do see this, and some services are here. It needs to get better. Servitization, as you're mentioning, is something that is being developed in Europe by some car manufacturers. So it's probable. I do see the same thing as you. It's just we need to have a better answer for rural regions.
I think about the fact that if we collect data, generally we will be we will be able to better understand where are the needs, it's needed, always in the idea that we do customization. So what kind of population we want to serve as a government. Maybe we want to improve mobility, that people with low income have things develop closer to their homes so that they can have a better life as well. So there's many issues like this that could be powerful. What we do with the data we have, is it for good as well?
And I think this subscriptionized, or the mobility as a service, as Geoffrey was saying, I think it's something we should really be leaning into heavily. And I think on average, people use their car maybe 5% of the time. The rest of the time, it's sitting on the lot. And while we're in this period where we're transitioning to electric vehicles, there's huge supply chain constraints on the rare minerals and metals that are used in batteries. And the waiting lists are very long. Surely it makes sense for us all to use the vehicles that are out there more frequently by sharing them. So, I mean, I love this. I love the vision that you outlined there, Ramii. I think it's very tough for the automakers because You know, we buy a vehicle that represents our identity. You know, that's the way it's been. But I think this will be very challenging from a loyalty point of view, unless maybe you go, like you say, with a group organization that's got a lot of different products that you can enjoy.
Yeah. I think it's going to be tough for automakers, but it's going to be tough for us as consumers to put aside that pride of ownership that we hold so dearly. When you get a car, you love it. It's a, you know, I mean, to me personally, I do have friends that don't really care about their cars. They just don't wash them, keep them filthy. I think they're disgusting, but it's not how I am. But hopefully I'll be able to, you know, think about the environment and say I'll have a car that I keep at home, but I don't use on a daily basis. I'll just, you know, use a electric. I mean, I do own an electric car. It's not an Audi, but I love it.
Well, is it still true that young people care less about car ownership? I know that was a theme, you know, over recent years, and younger people are more interested in experience, and so maybe that transition's already happening.
All right. So I think we're running out of time. I think I don't have a watch. Are we okay? Yeah? All right. So I don't see
5 minutes on the right.
Yeah? All right. But okay. Did you have anything to add before the end of the live stream? I was seeing you.
Well, I think pick up on a point that Myriam made about the vehicle being able to track you kind of biologically, and there's talk in the industry around the car as a caregiver, and you know it's quite interesting if you think about the car being able to monitor your pulse and your heart rate and to check your vitals, and you know you hear about obviously injuries and accidents happening because of people getting unwell while they're driving, but also if it can actually help you be proactive in actually providing some of those metrics and measurements to you. You know, certainly, I mean, the example you gave was with a breathalyzer, you know, if you're impaired and you're getting in, and the vehicle can actually respond in that way. These are becoming near-term technologies now that I think we've got to start really thinking about how we're going to make our peace with them as they become part of our lives.
Thanks. One last intervention. Myriam?
The future is going to be beautiful.
All right. So for them who were with us the live stream, thank you very much. It was a fascinating conversation, and for those of you who are in the audience, we'll have a Q&A session. So we'll start taking questions now. Yes. Thought I saw